Right. I believe we are live. Listen, I've kept the king waiting. Listen, that's bad form. You don't keep the king waiting. Jeez. Royalty is in the building. As you guys know, yeah? This Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury whole escapade has been one of the most toxic, nasty, spiteful, vicious fights I can remember in boxing history. I've been called every single name under the sun, from Uncle Tom to sellout to C-word to you know what, right? And I thought, you know what? I'm sick and tired of covering this fight. Sick and tired of speaking about the aftermath of this fight. Sick and tired of speaking about the moronic fanboys who are continuing to suggest that there's some kind of conspiracy going on involving a long count and that Deontay Wilder is really still the heavyweight champion of the world. So I brought my best friend here for tonight, Riku. Yeah, the man is back on the show. I'm just going to check my channel's working. Riku, I apologize for keeping you there. I'll tell you, I've just been all over the place today. How are we doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for asking. Yeah, just back straight from work, but here to entertain the fans and give my thoughts on what I thought was a great night of boxing in the ring, outside the ring, as usual. It let itself down, but that's what boxing's all about.
Well, it has, Riku. Okay, then. Right. So, guys, again, as usual, if you want to ask Riku a question, again, we'll have to go through these because last time they were fucking bucket full. But it's hashtag Ask Riku. You guys know the drill. Riku, let's start with the bare bones basics here. Your thoughts, on Wilder versus Fury, the event as a whole, the promotion, what happened in the ring, what happened out the ring, Riku. Say whatever you got to say. Go for it.
Yeah, I think I'll just start with the fight. I mean, we discussed the promotion and everything else, but let's start with the fight. And I thought it was an excellent fight. It was a throwback heavyweight fight in the sense that two guys slugged it out. I mean, Fury was on top of most of the fight, but he did get knocked down a couple of times. I think that was in the fourth round, if I remember correctly. I thought it was an unbelievable fight, one for the ages. So I thought Tyson Fury's tactics since he's gone to Sugar Hill have changed quite significantly. He's happy to trade. He's happy to actually fight at close ranges. So the idea of Tyson Fury staying behind his jab, keeping it safe, those days seem to be over, particularly around Wilder, I think. And I think he has Wilder's number. I think they could fight against each other 10 times and he'd probably win 9 times. I think he's got the mental side of Wilder as well. And I felt that Wilder probably had a better camp than he had before. He seemed more prepared, I think. But I think in the build-up, Fury just knows how to push the buttons to get that extra energy out of Wilder, and that's why he seems so tired in the ring after 4 rounds. Not just because he got knocked down, but I just felt like he was shattered after 2 or 3 rounds, if I'm being honest. I think that's the mental energy, but I mean, that's my sort of high-level take on the fight. I think the big difference really was that Wilder, every time he got hit, it felt like he didn't really know what to do. So his defense is still pretty terrible, if I'm being honest. He didn't know how to lean back on the ropes, how to ride shots, how to use his feet to get out of distance. And towards the end of the fight, he was sort of holding on Fury, holding for dear life as such. What did you think?
Let me ask you. Sorry, Ricky. No, sorry. I'm listening. It's fine. I've just got you on mute, so I don't interfere with what you're saying. I'm cleaning my desk in a minute. Right. Let's start with Fury. Do you think Sheman's gonna be mad at me for saying this about Minek here? Do you think that was 100% Tyson Fury, or do you think he had any problems going into camp, or do you just think it was all Deontay Wilder, and that's the reason why Fury struggled late on?
I don't actually think it was 100% Tyson Fury. So I think I've said it to you before, and I said it maybe the last time I came to the channel, that I just didn't feel like Fury's camp was perfect. There was the whole thing with his child obviously being in hospital, the birth of his child, the whole COVID thing, which I'm not sure was actually a thing. I just thought he wasn't ready. I thought it was a Fury that was at 80-90%, but I think Wilder definitely improved. And I think also the more they fought against each other, Wilder knows how to approach the fight. One of the things I thought which Wilder didn't do enough of is really punch to the body or jab to the body. He was just going haymakers to the head more than anything else, trying those straight right hands. And it felt like he wants to get Fury out with one shot.
That's what it felt like to me. I thought Wilder started the fight tremendously well. And I thought if he could have carried on those jabs to the body, I know Fury did make a little slight adjustment for me, but to be honest, I just felt Fury was sluggish. That was me personally. He didn't look right to me. That's my opinion. I'm not. People say Ultra's making excuses. Honestly, I just call it how I see it. By the way, I don't know if you heard. I had to take it down. I don't know if you heard my initial instant reaction. I got murdered for laying into Fury's performance after that because I didn't think it was a great performance at all from Fury. In terms of heart, yes, it was, but technically, I wasn't impressed at all. And I thought he was getting hit with a lot of shots where he walked himself into a right hand, which he didn't need to walk himself into, walked himself in right on the line with no head movement to a big shot. And like I said, I'm concerned after seeing that performance from Fury because all this, Sugar Hill for flipping Kronk Jing rubbish that, I'm not a big believer. I'm a believer in that there's a moment for the quote unquote Kronk style. I also believe there's a moment for classic Tyson Fury on the back foot, behind the jab, slippery, slick, and being evasive and riding shots and slipping shots and that. I think there's definitely needs to be for that as well because I think if he carries on in this vein, walking in straight lines, not moving his head, plodding around, he's going to get himself into trouble, particularly with somebody like Alexander Usyk, in my opinion. I don't think Usyk watched that fight and was shook at all. I think that he sees, Fury's huge, but he sees a slow, plodding guy plodding into him in straight lines. Usyk's going to shoot and move around. He forget the knockout. He doesn't care about that. He don't care about knockout. Usyk's going to shoot, slip, slide around, and he's just going to use his pure speed, to get around Fury, in my opinion. Have you got any thoughts on that at all?
No, I agree. I think anything that Fury showed in the fight wasn't something that Usyk wouldn't have seen before in the amateurs. That style of Fury poses less problems than the guy that fought against Klitschko. That's my opinion. Just because Fury is giving away so many assets in terms of his height, size, reach, technical ability, movement, just to trade close range. And that's what Usyk's probably used to anyways, at least as a smaller man. And again, look, I got it wrong for the Joshua fight because I didn't think Usyk would be that good against a bigger man. But I think Usyk is quite comfortable fighting against bigger men. And Fury, I still don't think Fury's a hard puncher. I mean, part of the reason why he took Wilder out was Wilder's stamina had gone at that stage. I don't think Usyk would be, or Fury would be able to hit Usyk as much as he hit Wilder. That's my own opinion, at least. So I think that will be an interesting fight, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think I disagree slightly. I think Fury does punch hard. I just think, again, he's a fighter who's never put his weight on his shots. I think he's always been able to punch hard, to be honest. Just think he's a fighter who doesn't sit down in his shots and put weight on his shots. And I think now, like I said before, he's sitting down on them. But the difference is as well, obviously, we all know, well, I think most fighters, you get more power when you're on the front foot than when you're on the back foot. Being able to punch on the back foot is something that's very hard to do. And actually something that Deontay Wilder doesn't get enough credit for, actually, because if you look at some of Deontay Wilder's most vicious knockouts, actually, well, the shot he landed on Tyson Fury, the shot he landed against Ortiz, actually, he wasn't on the back foot. He turned it around. But he is able to punch extremely hard, Deontay Wilder, moving forwards and moving backwards. Right, which is something that a lot of fighters don't have. Some fighters are big punches. They're big punches when they're on the front foot, dictating the pace. You start moving them back, and the power evaporates. So I don't think Wilder is that kind of fighter. But I just think Fury is being to sit on his shots. But I think it's come at a big cost there. And
agreed.
I looked at that performance, and I can see massive trouble. If he'd have fought Usyk that night, I see massive trouble, because I just think, like I said before, when you get into a fight with someone like Usyk, you have to be super intelligent about the way you pressure somebody like Usyk. I don't think you're going to be able to steam into him in straight lines like what Tyson Fury was doing, and just putting him in lines like that and putting yourself on the line. You have to be a little bit more slick and a little bit more clever with how you trap Usyk, because I think Usyk's a guy who's been dealing with that his whole career. He knows angles, he knows how to slip inside, he knows how to shoot and then pivot out and all this kind of stuff. So Fury, again, if he came in sluggish against Usyk, he would look pretty bad. I just want to quickly say, Riku, on the screen right now, Deontay Wilder, I'm sure you've seen this, made a comment in the last 59 minutes. And just before I want to quickly say this on the comment. Crazy D3 is right. I forgot to mention this a couple of times. Tyson Fury did roll his ankle and then he snapped his ankle in the ring after he was after his first knockdown of Deontay Wilder. And he said his legs were never the same after that. He said it, and he didn't say that just to like media or anything. There was a backstage camera, and he was saying to members of his team he nearly snapped his ankle on the first knockdown. So he did quite badly injure his ankle. So that might have hindered some of his foot speed. Deontay Wilder's come out and given Tyson Fury the credit for the win. All right. So no conspiracy theories. Everything's been put to bed. I'm sure you've seen that, Riku. Why do you think that's happened now? Do you think this is Deontay Wilder's true feelings, or do you think, that the outpouring of outrage after the audio of Wilder in the corner saying no respect, no respect, no respect, I don't love you, bro, I don't love you, bro, blah, blah, blah. As soon as that was released, an hour later or a couple of hours later, we had this statement. Do you think that's PR, damage control, or do you think Wilder really finally has gotten over it and he's cool with it?
I think there's a few things. I think it's wrong for us to judge fighters' reactions straight after a fight, so how they feel about it, and then use that as a sort of the mechanism to figure out what a fighter actually thinks. Sometimes you have to watch the fight back. And I also don't think some of it will be PR, because some of it will be the case that he's got the credit from the public for being a warrior. What's the point of criticizing Fury? They're not going to fight again. Let's move on. Both of us can still make money in the sport. So I think some of it is damage control. And he wants to be seen as a graceful champion. I mean, he needs to convince people to fight him to get any belts back and big money fights, because he could be on the sidelines if he doesn't do that.
There's a few people on the internet who think these lot could fight for a fourth time. I don't think that will ever happen or should happen. Like, it's time now to end this.
I mean, look, I don't think they could stand each other's side for the fourth time. And also, as you said, the build-up was really toxic. So I understand why Wilder, after losing that fight and being knocked out, why he would feel that way about Fury. There's probably no good... I mean, if I was in Wilder's situation, I probably wouldn't feel particularly happy at the moment, right after the fight, after being knocked out and listening to this guy say what he's been saying in press conferences. And obviously, it's been going back and forth, so...
Right, let's move on to the aftermath. This is going to be the fun part now. Oh, Jesus Christ. Let me just make my screen. Look who the fucking cat dragged in here. Look. Jesus Christ.
That video.
Oh, Jesus. Look who the fucking cat dragged in. If it isn't anybody but Lord Barry Hearn. The return of Lord Barry Hearn. Matchroom are doing what Matchroom do best. Have you ever noticed that when Tyson Fury wins a fight, it becomes a Matchroom victory? Have you ever noticed that when Tyson Fury beats Wilder or draws with Wilder or beats Wilder, it becomes a victory for Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte, and all of a sudden, Matchroom seem to come out of the cupboard, leech on and attach themselves to the glory of Tyson Fury and attempt to use it to promote their fighters. So the latest one, this is going to make you laugh now, Lord Barry Hearn. Now, I'm not going to play this interview, even though I could. I'm actually on very good terms with Rob Tebbett. So I think if I was to play this interview, he wouldn't mind, but I'm not going to do it. But Barry Hearn in his interview, I only watched a few seconds of it because, let's be honest, who can stomach more than a few seconds of Baz Hearn himself? Basically went on to compliment Tyson Fury in the first 5 seconds of his interview and then go on to slag him off for the next fucking 15, 20 minutes of the interview and basically do what Barry Hearn does, right? Let me quickly say this, Riku. Eddie Hearn, as fans, we should be calling this. Eddie Hearn's telling the fans what to think now. As fans, we should be calling for Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte. Imagine the build-up. Imagine the fight. I can imagine this fight. I can imagine this fight very well.
I can imagine it,
It does well over 1 million pay-per-view buys. Sells out a stadium. That's the fight. Riku, does Tyson Fury need to be getting in the ring with Dillian Whyte? And do you think he can even get himself up for a fight with the can man, Dillian?
Anybody can get it.
Literally.
Anybody but can get it, apart from Joshua in that fight, which got cancelled.
Yeah. Everybody can get it apart from Joshua and who else? And Lewis Ortiz.
Yes, exactly.
And Kubrat Pulev in Bulgaria.
Exactly.
Everybody else is up for Carry on.
I mean, the idea, British fans have always been misguided by this idea of stadium fights. You make less money in stadium fights than you do fighting in a casino in Vegas, because stadiums don't pay site fees. You pay the stadium which is out of the revenues, and then you sell tickets to offset that cost, where side fees, they'll give you 30, 40 million and you fight there. So that's point number one. Selling out of stadiums is irrelevant. Would it do 1 million buys? I don't know. I'm not a boxing accountant. I don't care. But frankly, does Tyson Fury need to prove against another British heavyweight that hasn't fought against Joshua that he's the best heavyweight in the world? Wouldn't it make more sense for Joshua to fight against Whyte here, rematch, and then Fury to fight against Usyk, because he's been undisputed, the end goal in boxing? Fans should not be calling for a guy that's been in the WBC rankings for however long, who Eddie has never got in a position to fight against the WBC champion, to face Tyson Fury after he's beaten Wilder, arguably the second best heavyweight in the world. I don't care about that fight, and I don't think fans should either.
Let me be honest, Riku. I'll be honest, I don't give a flying fuck about Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte. I don't care. I know I'm going to get the pro Dillian Whyte channels. Dillian's my best friend. I consider Dillian a good friend of mine. Yeah. And all this nonsense going to come out and talk about, he's been mandatory for 1,000, which he has not been mandatory. He's been mandatory for 1,000 days. As far as I'm concerned, right? All of this nonsense about Tyson Fury has to do this, has to do that. He doesn't have to do anything. He was before, but even more so. There is no disputing right now that he's the number one. I think Usyk might beat him, actually, but at this minute in time, there's no disputing he's number one. The belts don't mean anything. I think Fury, if he wanted to, would give up that WBC in a heartbeat. It's the most prestigious alphabet belt in boxing, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. Everybody knows who the champ is, right? There's no dispute over that. Tyson Fury doesn't need belts to sell fights. He doesn't need belts to build his profile. And, he doesn't need Dillian Whyte for anything. And I think for Tyson Fury, to be honest, I would consider, if I was in his camp, Riku, vacating the WBC. I would just consider vacating the WBC. And Ingram came up with this idea the first time that Tyson Fury was champion many years ago. Ingram said, give up all these stupid belts and defend the Ring Magazine and Lineal Championships. And that'd be the end of it. Everybody knows you're the man. And I think, look, Dillian Whyte deserves his shot. He should get his shot. But I think Fury should vacate. Let Dillian have his shot against somebody else. I don't know who they would drum up in a WBC. Hopefully they don't drum up someone like Andy Ruiz. Or I don't think Dillian Whyte
might be Joe Joyce. I think it might be Joe Joyce.
Carry on, Riku. Carry jump in.
No, I think it might be Joe Joyce. That would be, if the belt got vacated, it would be Joe Joyce against Dillian Whyte.
Frank Warren would make that fight tomorrow. Do you know that?
100%.
Frank will do that tomorrow in full confidence. Who have you got? Dillian Whyte and Joe Joyce. Who are you picking?
Joe Joyce, easily. His engine is underrated. I was going to say, if there actually is a guy in the heavyweight division that I think at some point, not at this point, I mean, Joyce isn't that young either, but maybe another big fight for Joe Joyce, he could be the guy that could actually give Tyson Fury problems if Tyson Fury fights in the style he's been fighting, just because of his engine, and he punches a lot harder than people think.
Who did you say? Usyk?
No, Joe Joyce. I think Joe Joyce.
Joe Joyce.
Yeah, I think Joe Joyce, just because of his engine, and he punches a lot harder than people think. I just think he could be one of those guys that we don't understand why he's so good at boxing. I backed Dubois to win that fight, but I think he could give problems to any heavyweight on his day, and if they don't come in 100% shape.
Very, very interesting there. So, yeah, there you go. As you can see on the screen, I'm just going to flip back there. Eddie Hearn telling Riku, you kind of stole my thunder there, but this whole stadium thing, listen, Riku, I don't give a living fuck. What I want to see is the best fights. I don't care whether guys are fighting in stadiums. When did British boxing fans become obsessed with stadiums? It's a stadium fight. Who gives a shit? Tyson Fury right now is one of the biggest exports, right, Britain has had to America in a very, very long time, right? After the fight, Enrique, I just want to show you this and I'll get your thoughts, right? There was a certain number of people who were saying things like nobody cares, right? About this fight. I don't know if you remember earlier, and it was nobody cares about this fight. Nobody wants to see this fight. Nobody wants to see Fury and Wilder free. Nobody's interested. Well, I'm just going to show on the screen very quickly. This is only a handful of celebrities, right? But Cedric the Entertainer, you may not think is a celebrity. There's Shaq. There's Shaquille O'Neal. I know for a fact Magic Johnson was there. There's Magic Johnson. Michael J. Fox turned up to this fight. Wiz Khalifa. I mean, look at some of these. Michael J. Fox, Shaquille O'Neal, Magic Johnson, and numerous other people are turning up to these fights, right? As far as Tyson Fury is concerned, he has cracked yeah, the United States. He has cracked the United States. Why on earth would he or his team give a damn about fighting in a flipping stadium in Spurs against Dillian Whyte in a local affair? No one cares.
No, and even if you look at the videos that came, people like Drake and lots of other celebrities,
exactly. The Rock, Conor McGregor after the fight. These are people that watched the fight.
There was no way he could have ever done that if he would have stayed fighting on these shores. Like he's done the right thing going over there. He's raised his profile, and he has to think about after his career. The next thing is he can be on entertainment shows, he can be on talk shows, he can be a star on his own right, and there's a lot more money to be made by staying in the US, fighting here at Spurs Stadium where no fan has a proper view of the stadium apart from those that are actually sitting ringside, and anybody watching on TV couldn't give two hoots whether that's in the stadium or in York Hall or in Eddie's back garden. Doesn't do anything. It's not really a selling point for a fighter. You can fight in a stadium. Do I care? Would I rather fight in Vegas? The mecca of boxing is not Spurs Stadium. The mecca of boxing is not Wembley Stadium. The mecca of boxing, we talk about Las Vegas. We don't talk about stadiums in the UK, football stadiums.
I try not to mention names, but somebody I really respect was banging on the other day on a radio show about fucking fighting in Spurs, and who gives a shit about fighting in Spurs? I don't know. I'm just saying, I know it's a big achievement, but at the end of the day, people remember fights, Riku, not crowd sizes. And I think some of the stuff we said in the run up to this fight, when people are banging on about the resume of Anthony Joshua, I think something that we've been saying now on this channel for a couple of weeks now, Riku, and that's been proven is nobody gives a fucking jack shit about resume, right? When your career's over, people don't really go and scour BoxRec, yeah? And say, oh, but he only fought Luis Ortiz, and oh my gosh, people don't care about that. What people remember is what great fights were you in, right? And Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury now have been in at least 3 great fights, in my opinion. I thought all of them were thrillers, all of them were classic fights. Wilder as well had, especially the first fight of Ortiz. I thought that was at that time that was a possible fight of the year contender. At that time.
100%. Yeah.
And by the way, this fight is fight of the year. There's no question about that. Ring Magazine are giving this fight of the year, right? So when people look back and just speak a bit on how Wilder's reputation has now been elevated to show these fanboys, Riku, that it's not about resume. It's not about ticket sales, A-side and pay-per-view, right? It's about being in exciting fights that people will remember 15, 20 years later.
Yeah, I completely agree. When we think about the great fighters, we think about how many Hall of Fame fighters they fought against and how many great fights they had. If Corrales and Castillo wouldn't have fought against each other in that legendary fight, they probably wouldn't be mentioned as much as they're mentioned now. And that's really what people remember. And somebody said Riddick Bowe only fought Holyfield, but remembered like a legend. Wilder's the same. Yeah, Riddick Bowe fought against Holyfield, but that was sort of the heavyweight peak era, the most recent peak era anyways, where you had some good fighters. But Riddick Bowe's never spoken about in the same light as, let's say, Lennox Lewis, who fought against Klitschko, Holyfield, Tyson. Those are the fights that we remember. We're not going to be talking about Joshua against Joe Parker. We're not going to be talking about Joshua against Andy Ruiz. We're going to be talking about in the same vein that we talk about Lennox Lewis against Hasim Rahman. Exactly. But we're going to be talking about this fight in 10, 20 years' time. This is similar to what Brits, when we talk about Froch Groves won, right? Yeah. We talk about one of the most shocking moments in our boxing histories when we stood up in shock when Froch got put down, and then the build-up was amazing. Bit of controversy at the end, whether stoppage was bad or not. But that's how we remember boxing. Those are the moments that we live for as fans. And now I sound a bit like Garrett A. Davis saying that, but yeah. Well, but that's what we remember. We don't remember BoxRec. We remember great fights and great fighters that had the courage to fight against each other.
And Riku, a great fight that I want to see, which I know is not going to get made, all right? Because we all remember Lord Bazza at his fishing pool 3 years ago on IFL TV saying the very words, if Anthony Joshua goes undefeated for 10 years and never fights Deontay Wilder, I'll be happy, right? So my question is this. It'll never happen, but I want to see Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. I think that's the fight. I think Wilder would take that fight. I don't think Wilder would need a tune-up for it. I think he'd take the fight ASAP, get it on. I'd make Anthony Joshua the favourite to win the fight. But in all honesty, Riku, you took the Deontay Wilder of last week against the Anthony Joshua of the week before that. Who would you have in that fight? And Riku, by the way, who would you have in their primes as well? Who did you have? I think I asked you before, but let me ask you again. Who would they had back? Who would you have had back in 2018 when they're supposed to get it on? And who would you have if they got it in the ring now?
It's so hard to divorce hindsight and, you know, what we've seen since. But I actually would have had Joshua when he was fearless fighting before the Ruiz fight. But I do think now it's a complete 50-50. And even then it would have been a 50-50. The only reason I would have said Joshua is because he was so aggressive that kind of tactic would have, which Fury has shown, right, in the second fight in particular, that kind of tactic could work quite well. But it's more a question if Wilder lands on him. But I think Joshua could have taken him out a bit earlier than Fury did.
What do you think would have happened? Do you think that Dillian Whyte or Anthony Joshua would have survived the first knockdown that Tyson Fury got in round 3 of last week's fight?
No, because they wouldn't have. So Tyson Fury is very, very clever. He's been knocked down many times, right? So he's very clever at sort of making the ref take a bit of extra time. So he'll get up, he'll start walking into the wrong corner. The ref says, come back. Then the ref says, lift up your gloves, and he'll have his gloves there. And then he'll go like this. And, you know, he'll buy those extra 7-8 seconds. He has those veteran tricks, which I'm sure Peter Fury and John Fury and the late Hughie Fury, his uncle who initially trained him, those are the kind of things that they would have taught him. And I don't think that's the thing that's underrated about Fury, is that a lot of these boxers that we see these days, they don't know what to do when they've been knocked down, and they react in a bad way, and they can't buy the time, and they just can't last through the round and, you know, clear their senses.
Dillian Whyte versus Deontay Wilder. Is there? What do you feel about that fight? I mean, yeah, people talk about the build-up will be great. Yeah. Listen, Dillian Whyte, I tell you that, he's got heart for ages. By the way, I've never had a problem with Dillian Whyte, by the way. A lot of people think I have a problem with Dillian Whyte. I've actually supported Dillian Whyte quite a few times on this channel. When he had his drug test failure, when he had that problem with his dope test, I never came on there and said he's a drug cheater or anything like that. My problem is with his promoter, who says one thing when his fighters have problems and says other things when other fighters, other promoters' fighters have problems. So I don't have a problem with Dillian Whyte. So I hate to make it sound like I'm bashing on Dillian Whyte, but Dillian Whyte versus Deontay Wilder, that fight doesn't really excite me. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong about fights before, but it doesn't excite me because I feel like I know what the outcome of that fight is going to be regardless. I think the outcome of that fight is going to be, it's only a matter of time before Deontay Wilder is going to land clean. And when he does, that's the end of it. But I could be wrong. Whyte's a bully. He's got a very, very heavy left hook. He's very, very good at working on the inside. Yeah, and those are the things that Deontay Wilder doesn't like. Deontay Wilder's not good on the inside. He's not good against left hooks up close. What are your thoughts on Wilder versus Whyte? Do you see it as a 50-50 or not? Are you excited about the fight, etc., etc.?
I think it's 70-30 to Wilder per se. I just think Wilder's style is sort of, well, Dillian Whyte's style is made for Wilder because Dillian Whyte can be very reckless, and that's where Wilder would catch him. And Wilder also, Dillian Whyte doesn't deal with straight shots very well, and he's also a big, he telegraphs his shots a lot. He's not like a sneaky puncher. And I think Wilder could probably deal with that. And Dillian Whyte isn't a messy kind of fight. He's quite a messy fighter. So I think it will be an ugly fight to watch. But I do think Wilder will catch him once and that will be over.
Riku, we said
look at Joe Parker, the Joe Parker fight, right? Towards the end.
Joe Parker had him. That fight had gone on literally 15, 20 seconds more in the round. Dillian Whyte wouldn't have got out on that. He was out of it, Dillian Whyte. 100%. I mean, he was gone. He was gone of Joseph Parker.
He was holding and he could hardly stand up. So I think the longer the fight goes on, the more likely it is that Wilder will take him out. And I don't think Dillian Whyte's the kind of guy that he could take out Wilder early.
Before we move on to different things, we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. It's funny, I asked you the question about Matchroom and did they make a mistake by not pushing Anthony Joshua to the moon in America? I think we can now say with the success of Tyson Fury in the States, I think we can now say it's official that Matchroom did make a massive mistake back in 2018. Again, all stems back to failing to take the Wilder fight. Again, they've let a 400-pound man come out of suicidal thoughts and depression, lose 150 pounds, and within 2.5 to 3 years, that man's come back and now is, the absolutely undisputed #1 in the division. In my opinion, Matchroom have done a lot of good for Anthony Joshua, right? But I think ever since the Klitschko fight, there's a case that he's been mismanaged. I think they've done, whoever's done that has got some serious questions to ask, because I can't believe what I'm seeing in my eyes every time I see it. Just to say, Dillian Whyte was asked to speak about Anthony Joshua at a press conference. He didn't even remember his name. He said, who's that guy the other day? Who's that guy who lost the other week? And they had to remind him who he is. And I just thought that's a real sad indictment, of where Anthony Joshua's career's gone in the States, in my opinion. Final words on that, Rick, and then we can move on to something more interesting if you want.
I don't think that Eddie, if you think about Matchroom's revenue and strategy, it's so beholden on Anthony Joshua. So a lot of the money that Matchroom will make from pay-per-views or from Joshua pay-per-views, their relationship with Sky previously was dependent on Anthony Joshua fighting on UK times, because we all remember the hoo-ha when he fought in the US and, Adam Smith not being happy and everybody else. So, and the final point I'll say about that is the American promoters have never been too welcoming towards Eddie, partly because he's come in there and told everybody how he's going to do a better job and how he can put on a better event and how he's going to change boxing in the US. So unless Anthony Joshua would have signed with a US promoter, gone to a US TV network, got that cross promotion, so, him and the NFL games, the same thing that Tyson Fury did, college football, basketball, ESPN, everything else. It just takes the hard work. And I've never got the sense that Anthony Joshua is a similar kind of guy that he really wants to promote a fight, particularly lately. And Tyson Fury does do the promotional work. He'll do everything that's asked. He'll go on every show. He'll do everything that to sell the fight and build his recognition. So I don't think, I think you're right. They did miss a trick there, but I don't think they would have had the skills in-house to do that. And the other thing is, it's not, Anthony Joshua wouldn't sell as well in the US.
Right, let's move on to a related but slightly different topic. We've got 157 in the chat and 33 likes. So obviously we've got the Ku Klux Klan watching this show. Two brothers here who are delivering a show to you free of charge, not getting paid any money for it. And there's 33 likes. Maybe they're right. Maybe Britain is an inherently racist country. Maybe we haven't recovered from the Stephen Lawrence situation back 30 years ago. If you want to prove me wrong, please feel free to hit the like button, because that is,
and subscribe so you get notifications when
absolutely
great guests like Ingram and others come on.
Well, yeah, Ingram's for those of you who I know you guys love Ingram. Ingram's due on this Saturday for the post fight, of this weekend's boxing. We've got Hughie Fury, we've got Hughie Fury, aka Savannah Marshall, and we've got Chris Eubank Jr. and many other superstars this week, for Sky. Me and Riku will talk about that later on in the show, but Ingram will be doing the post fight for us, and Ingram's going to lay in, and then maybe on Sunday. Maybe we'll get Daryl and Abdul if they want to hear. I don't know if you heard Abdul before.
No, I thought when you mentioned Daryl, you mentioned me because that's my middle name.
No, we got a brother called Daryl who's a fighter. He's had MMA fights and boxing fights.
Yeah, I'll definitely listen into that.
The one Daryl's a legend. Also, Abdul. I mean, people think I'm bad. Abdul is just merciless. He is absolutely no excuses allowed. Yeah, but anyway, let's carry on. Riku, I'm going to show you the screen. I know you've seen this. DAZN have been sending out a survey, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't got the whole survey here, but they've been sending out a survey. Let me just move it up. But they've been sending out a survey to some of their subscribers, asking them how they would feel about paying for pay-per-view. One of the fights mentioned, right, was Dillian Whyte versus Andy Ruiz. So DAZN have been sending around surveys asking people if they would pay $29.99. That was the price. $29.99 to watch Dillian Whyte versus Andy Ruiz. My first question to you, Rico, I'll give you two questions. First question is, would you pay $29.99 to watch Dillian Whyte versus Andy Ruiz? And do you think that this is a signal that DAZN are going to do everything they can to get Anthony Joshua, and the only way they can get Anthony Joshua is to deliver pay-per-view? This is the company that prided themselves on pay-per-view is dead. Give me your thoughts on that, Riku.
I thought the game was changed. Hashtag game change, but
Well,
that didn't happen exactly.
well,
No, I wouldn't pay for that much to watch it because you're already paying for a subscription, aren't you? So what are you paying? You're paying
that's a
£8.
very good point, by the way. Now
You
they
paid
must.
£8 for Saturday Fight Night, then you're paying £30 to watch Dillian Whyte. Like, what you're spending £40 a month to watch Matchroom shows? That's a lot of money, isn't it?
Well, some people will do it. Now carry on. I'm dragging up that Nick Beattie tweet. You keep talking.
Yes,
I forgot. I've got one. Remember that, yeah. So you keep talking. I'm dragging it up.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think with DAZN, the model from Y Configure effectively was they need to ramp up enough subscribers in a small period of time not to be making a loss. And the only way they can do that, they figured now, is pay-per-view, because they can't. The same thing I talked about before. In order for them to grow their subscribers, they have to spend money, and that is direct advertising on social media platforms, posters, billboards, email campaigns. All of that stuff costs money. They have no other way of cross-source selling their platform, which Sky has, because Sky obviously has Sky customers, broadband, Sky Entertainment customers, Sky Sports customers that might subscribe to boxing pay-per-views. So DAZN is very expensive, the customer acquisition. So I think they've got to the point where the subscriber numbers aren't high enough that they can justify spending all this money on boxing shows and purses, with Eddie's increased budgets, that they have to do something. I think in general, DAZN going back on their word, which I tweeted about this week, is really bad because it just breaks consumer trust. Because where are we going to go after this price increase to £8, where a lot of people like myself, got off DAZN subscriptions? Obviously, there's other ways to watch shows. Enough about that. What next? They're going to go into pay-per-view, which they said they're never going to do. Maybe 12 months ago, they said no pay-per-view, or maybe 6 months ago when they first arrived to the UK, no pay-per-view. So what's going to be the next step? So what are you paying for on DAZN? On Sky, you're paying for football, Formula One, boxing, everything else, golf, whatever other sports they have on there.
Let me quickly butt in. They have to be getting BT, which I believe is going to happen. It has to happen, because if this BT deal doesn't happen and they can't get one of both and Champions League or Premier League or both, and we're going to go through it in a minute, it's looking bad. Like, this DAZN schedule at the minute looks absolutely atrocious, And the ironic thing is, right, I think Eddie Hearn's going to get this. It's not Eddie Hearn's going to do it, but I think DAZN are going to get BT. And the funny thing is, I believe if Frank Warren had another 12 to 18 months with BT in the game, Frank at the minute's making moves. Talk about his signing David Avanesian. Mm-hmm. George Warren was the one who brokered the deal to get Canelo and Plant on BT Sport. George Warren brokered that, according to Frank. So that's got nothing to do. People are speculating that Canelo being on BT is because DAZN are buying BT. It's got nothing to do with that. That's because George Warren personally brokered the deal with Premier Boxing Champions, right? And things actually seem to be looking up for Frank Warren and his stable at the minute. If you look at what they got with Joyce, who signed an extension, they've got Dubois on a long-term deal. Dubois is number one with the WBA. Joyce is the guy with the WBO. They've got the number one heavyweight in the world. Tommy Fury is about to fight in the second biggest, and arguably one of the biggest fights of the year. People can say what they want about YouTube boxing, right? But Tommy Fury versus Jake Paul's huge. That's an absolutely massive fight out in the States,
Yeah. I mean, anything with Jake Paul is huge.
It's huge.
He's one of the biggest stars in boxing.
Look,
I hate to say it, but that's the truth.
That's the truth. I mean, I don't know. People keep talking about Canelo Alvarez as a big star. People are going to call me crazy. I wonder how close or far away Jake Paul is to Canelo. I could be wrong on that. What do you think? Do you think that's a crazy thing to say?
No, I mean, look, it depends how we measure it, right? I wouldn't be surprised if their pay-per-view numbers were fairly similar. 1, 2, in terms of followers and global recognition, probably Jake Paul has more than Canelo. Jake Paul happens to be somebody that's fighting and fairly novice-y, but he's putting on really big events, selling a lot of pay-per-views. The definition of the biggest star of boxing doesn't have to be that you have to be a good fighter.
Right. And Jake Paul isn't going to be sitting down in bloody arenas waiting for UFC fights to finish. He ain't going to be sitting in a bloody chair with his dressing gown on, waiting 2 hours for other fights to finish. I mean, this guy is a legit star. And then if you look at the knock-on effects from that, Frank was saying today that they want Dubois, Showtime want Dubois back out on the Jake Paul undercard. Now, whether that will happen or not, we don't know. But he said that Showtime have requested that Dubois, because I don't know if you saw the footage that DAZN took of Dubois, the crowd reaction to Dubois knocking that guy out in a round or two. I wasn't expecting that kind of reaction. Dubois actually got a really, really positive reaction from the crowd. Even going back to the ring, people were sort of, tapping him, asking him, like they really think that they could. I'm not saying he's going to be a star, but I think everybody was just taken aback by Dubois in the States. Just give me a quick word on that, and then I'll crack on.
No, I think it's great that these young fighters are fighting in the US, getting that experience, and I think the US hasn't had many great heavyweights for a long time. So Efe Ajagba, he's Nigerian, right? He's gone and he's gone and fought in the US. He's very liked there. Lots of other heavyweights from around the world, whether that's Luis Ortiz or others, they all go and fight in the US. So for Dubois going to fight there, especially after he was thrown under the bus here by British Boxing Vogue, the media and others, I can see it being a good move for him.
We'll have to wait and see. Okay. And I completely forgot what I was going to say. So Jake Paul. So they've got Tommy Fury. By the way, while you're here, who have you got in that fight? I haven't really watched much of Jake Paul. I'm going to go for Tommy Fury. I'm going with Tommy Fury. I've seen enough of Jake Paul.
What? I'm actually going Jake Paul. I sound like an absolute casual. But Tommy Fury looked so bad in his last fight that I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Paul beat him.
I didn't see Tommy Fury. I saw Jake Paul, and I didn't bother watching Tommy Fury already. He already absolutely stunk the joint out. I mean, he's going to get, what's he getting? He's getting $1.5 million, I think, now that the offer's going to be, or he's going to get $1 million, and if he wins, he gets $500,000 sent to him within 24 hours as per the contract. Yeah. So if he wins the fight, he's going to earn $1.5 million.
Yeah, I mean,
seven fights into his career.
But that's what Jake Paul can do. That's a sign what a bigger boxer, what a big name boxing is. He puts on his own shows. He builds out the undercard. People are desperate to be on his undercard. He can pay his opponents, even though they're not high-level fighters. That's the power of Jake Paul. I think he's shown everybody that what you can actually do if you promote yourself properly online, and you're an interesting person. A lot of boxers just aren't particularly interesting. So I think it's all credit to Jake Paul. Boxing fans shouldn't be laughing at Jake Paul or boxers. They should be actually saying, what can I take away from this?
Absolutely. And he's given other boxers a platform. Like you said, he's given Dubois a platform. He's given Amanda Serrano a platform. So we'll have to wait and see. So just getting back to this DAZN pay-per-view thing, right? I mean, like I said, for me, if they're not buying BT Sport, if they don't get hold of BT Sport, it's looking dreadful. I mean, I'm just looking at this lineup now, which I'm going to show you on the screen. Kid Galahad, who's one of the very, very best fighters in this country, in my opinion. I've been saying that since he was on the ITV box office. I think he's a tremendous, tremendous talent, yeah? Versus Kiko Martinez. This fight has been absolutely derided, yeah? Out on social media, and rightly so, because we know Kiko Martinez has now been through the wars for how many years on Matchroom cards. I mean, when did Kiko Martinez?
And he lost his L for Barrett earlier this year.
Well, yeah, he didn't really lose though.
He didn't lose, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. He fought Sulphur Barrett. But I mean, when did he fight Carl Frampton? Am I thinking he fought Carl Frampton nearly 10 years ago?
Something like that. I'm going to look it up on Box.
Carl Frampton beat him. That's how Carl Frampton won his first ever world title.
Yeah. Carl Frampton beat him. Well, that was 2014, but the first time Carl Frampton beat him was 2013.
Right, and that was it. The second time was for the world title, not the first.
Second time was first time was for the European.
Right, so nearly 10 years ago, Carl Frampton beat Kiko Martinez. 10 years later, he's been served up on a DAZN card against Kid Galahad. Just your thoughts on that main event there.
Well, I don't understand why Lee Wood couldn't face him. I mean, it's a Sheffield derby. That would have made sense. I know Kid Galahad doesn't like, or he said, I don't want to fight for a regular belt, but I just think it's very underwhelming, and it's also not. It's a homecoming fight, but come on, Kiko Martinez. We all know what's going to happen in that fight. I think it's just terrible. If we're talking about higher standards on DAZN than compared to what Eddie had on Sky, and that's been a talk, and getting better fights. How can anybody get excited about Kiko Martinez fighting against Kid Galahad?
And Kid Galahad, look, I love the guy, but he's not a draw. And I love him to death, but Kid Galahad's
agreed.
not a draw. You have to be a purist to appreciate what he does in the ring. Kid Galahad's not a guy that's going to be, drawing any kind of casuals into sort of watching him fight. He's a very much a Marmite guy. He's very much a Marmite character. He doesn't really promote himself, really. He's an all business kind of fighter. He stays in the gym. He does his talking in the gym. He does his talking on fight night. But he's not exactly a promoter's dream. Terry Harper, who in my opinion has got the best body in women's boxing by a mile, versus Alicia Baumgartner. I don't know.
I mean, it's a comeback fight, isn't there? Are they going to let her, even if it's a close fight, is she going to lose? I don't think so. I mean, she didn't lose against, I thought she lost quite comprehensively against Natasha Jonas.
Mikey Garcia this weekend versus the great Sandor Martin.
Isn't he a former European champion, Sandor Martin?
Correct. You've got Matchroom putting on a show. You've got a guy who was legitimately a pound for pound top 5 fighter about 3-4 years ago, and went in against Errol Spence. If he'd have beaten Errol Spence, he probably would have ended up being number 1 or something like that. He's now they've dragged out Sandor European champion Martin.
So he fought against Kay Prosper, who's one of Steve Goodwin's fighters up in Spain. I think it was Kay Prosper fought very well in that fight, but obviously Sandor Martin got the decision. I think he probably won that fight closely. I didn't see that fight, but that's what I heard from Goodwin's lot. But yeah, he's fought against Kay Prosper, who's a sort of Southern area level fighter, and he's beat him barely, and now he's fighting against Mikey Garcia. That won't go longer than 2 or 3 rounds.
So the point we're trying to make there is, Riku, in my opinion, give your thoughts on this. For me, as far as DAZN are concerned, it's BT or bust for me from what I can see. I'm just looking through these events. Well, I didn't watch the last weekend's boxing, but I'll drag that up in a second and we can go through that with you, right? But
I didn't watch it, so
yeah. I mean, look, it's you know these cards, you know what's going to happen. You know, as soon as Ted Cheeseman gets on the card, you know you're going to hear about his brain rattling around in his skull because the guy just walks in and takes so much punishment. Big shout out to Troy the Trojan for that win. But yeah, what do you think overall about DAZN? For me, like I said, Riku, it's BT or bust. If they I think they will get BT because Matchroom tend to always get what they want in the end, right? But if they don't,
well, it's all DAZN. It's all Matchroom decision. The thing is, it's a lot of capital they need to pour in to actually buy the sports rights of all the sports persons of BT. Also, there's all sorts of things which I won't bore people with around competition regulation, what that means. The competition regulator could say that it would limit people's access of watching Premier League and other sports if they had to get an app, particularly older people, Champions League. There's a lot of hurdles to go over there. Like it's not an easy process to say to people, particularly the older generation, you need to download this app on your TV that you've had since 1997. And that's the only way you're going to watch Champions League. So they need to think about something around that. And I think that's where the tricky stuff is around how the competition regulator sees it. And the other stuff is DAZN would have to stump up a lot of cash in order to actually buy it. So it's not something that they could take more debt because they're a very indebted business. They've got loads of debt anyways.
What's your feeling? If you've got 20 more minutes, we want to do
I've got time. I've got time.
I've got time. All right, I'm not on form tonight, Ricky. I've been since that
Oh,
fight.
you're always on form, mate.
No, seriously, since the Anthony Joshua fight, I don't know why I put so much into that. I haven't been the same, so I need a bit of a break myself. What's your yes or no? Will DAZN acquire BT Sport, the Champions League and the Premier League?
No.
You don't think they will?
So I'll give you my reasoning for that. So I was reading in the Financial Times, and this is what they said. The Premier League rights are owned by Amazon, a small portion, Sky and BT. If the rights are to be sold to anybody else, the two other parties need to agree on that, right? Why would Sky sanction off the sale of those rights to DAZN to grow a platform that has just nicked their boxing content off them? That's my reason why this is not going to happen.
Should I tell you who I'd like to see get these rights? Amazon.
Amazon, that makes more sense. That makes more sense.
I just think they would take it to another level. I don't really watch football, but I've heard that their Amazon's coverage of football is absolutely like revolutionary, like nothing anybody's ever. I've heard they've got like 500 different camera angles, and they've got all these live stats coming up about the game. And I've heard they've really like put technology. You can maybe give us some thoughts on that. I've heard they've really put. Can I just say quickly before you can as well, Riku? Do you remember when Matchroom started with DAZN with Fight Camp? We were hearing rumors. I heard rumors on social media that this whole Matchroom, you know, they made a big deal of Matchroom doing the production for DAZN, so it was going to be Matchroom Productions. I heard there was going to be like a real investment in technology. I heard we were going to be able to do online polls during fights, online interaction and during fights. There were going to be stats, statistics. I heard that Matchroom were going to do like a complete revolution of boxing and bring interactivity and bring things into boxing that we'd never seen before. And all we got in the end here was a couple of blokes in a hot dog stall, and Shannon Courtney, who we'll talk about in just a second, sitting in the front row, pissed off her tits. I mean, what do you think about that? And what do you think about what Amazon could bring to the table?
So I think there's two sides of that. One is this is more your domain, the technology side, right? You in your day job, you deal with technology.
I pretend to, but carry on.
Yeah. But I mean, look, DAZN are having problems running these cards to 10, 20,000 people, right?
Yeah.
The streams aren't working, everything else. So Premier League have a vested interest in having somebody owning the rights that can run this sufficiently, because if they have the Premier League product on DAZN and the servers keep crashing, fans can't watch games, that's a DAZN and Premier League problem. So DAZN would need to prove that they could actually run the technology and, have all the servers so that millions of people could watch games
just to say,
at the
Rico,
same
they do
time.
it in Italy. To be fair to DAZN, they've got the rights in Italy for Serie A, and they seem to do it there.
Yes, you're right. They do in Germany. They've got Champions League, so you're right. But they have to be able to do it in the UK. Our broadband's up pretty shit anyway, so that's one problem. The other problem I have is Premier League have to agree for the rights of the football to go onto a platform that is hardly known in the UK. So BT, as I said earlier, like BT they can cross-market it many ways through the broadband packages. Sky do the same. They've got various different channels. Amazon are just a machine, aren't they? They can do anything. Exactly. But a lot of people have Amazon Prime as a subscription anyways.
Correct.
So the problem is there's no real reason why the Premier League, at the end of the day, they own the rights, right? Well, BT own the rights, but Premier League have say where it goes. So I can't see why the Premier League would want it to go to DAZN.
Let's move on. I agree with that. You know more about it. This is why we get you on, Riku. Very, very knowledgeable about this kind of thing. I want to quickly, I don't want to forget. The reason why I'm quick to move on is because I don't want to forget. You said you didn't see the fights over the weekend, right? Have you? Well, you've all heard about.
I've been following what's happened since. I haven't seen the fights, but I've been following. Yes.
Yeah, you know what's coming now. Here we go. Let's talk about everybody's favorite ticket tout, Shirley from EastEnders, aka Sharon Courtney.
Sharon.
Yeah, Sharon Courtney. Jeez, where did you start with this woman? So. The period gate, as it's now been called on the internet. She claims that she was bang on to make weight, and then her period turned up, made her gain 2.5 pounds in weight, and that's the reason why she missed her weight on the scales and is no longer the WBA champion of whatnot, who gives a toss, right? And a very, very interesting comment was made by Michaela Meyer.
I saw that.
Yeah, Michaela Meyer, who is into Brothers of Colour. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of Michaela Meyer's boyfriend. She got lots of racism come her way this weekend.
Yeah, I saw that.
Boyfriend. Yeah, so Riku, you still got a chance. Yeah.
Although she did call her boyfriend Chocolate Man, which I thought was a bit sort of like weird.
Yeah,
that was a bit weird.
That was no. You know what, Riku? I'm not joking. I thought exactly the same thing when she said that. Because, we'll talk about it another time. This is something that me and Sharon talk about all the time. We don't want to be someone's fetish, but look, we give her a pass. Anyway, Shannon Courtney, Michaela Meyer said, if you know, right, that you're going to go to the scales, or if you know you're in a race against time to make weight, how the hell do you have time to put on a full set of makeup, do your eyebrows and do everything before you go out on stage to the weigh-in? According to Michaela Meyer, nothing that Shannon Courtney says about this makes any fucking sense. And I'll quickly read out this tweet from Ebony Bridges today. Ebony Bridges is also in my shit books for basically comparing her eye injury here to the eye injury that Billy Joe Saunders had when he nearly basically had his career ended by Canelo Alvarez. So Ebony Bridges, I'm definitely not a big fan of her for comparing a black eye to somebody who actually had their eyes smashed out of his socket. But Ebony Bridges says, I know I'm late to the party because I was off social media, blah, blah, blah. She's talking about Shannon Courtney. She says, Shannon Courtney said I needed to take the sport seriously and have respect for boxing and the champs because of I was wearing lingerie on the scales. When then she goes and loses her title on the scales. Go on, Riku, give it to us.
She actually has another comment underneath that.
Okay, I'll find that. Go on, I'll find it.
Yeah, so I think Eddie said this in his interview, right? Her job is to make weight, right? Her job is to make weight. There's no excuses
right now. Yeah. That's her comment. There you go.
That's twice now she hasn't made weight. Embarrassing as fuck, especially as a champ. Looks like she didn't take the title so serious. My last 4 fights, I've got my period. Fucking sucks, but I got to do what I got to do to make weight because I have respect for the sport and my opponent. So look, she's not my favorite, but I do
forget she's got to make weight with those big bolt-ons on as well. Even harder.
True. I mean, she could probably scoop one of them out if I'm being honest. So yeah, she'd be like what do you call it, straw waist if she took them off. But anyways, that's besides the point. I just think it's just an excuse. I mean, look, I'm not going to say whether that's the case or not if a female has that time of the month, but the fact that she didn't even try to make the weight, so she didn't do the 2 hour trying to drain the weight, she just decided, nope, that's it. I think that just screams unprofessionalism.
Well, I mean, you said it when you were on the show last week. I mean, we don't want to be a grass, but like, I'm not going to grass her up, but you saw the signs last week. You met her. Yeah, you saw it. That's it. At the Anthony Joshua fight. So carry on, Riku.
Yeah, and I just think the other thing is, even if you don't make the weight, you lose the fight, which means that you lose your title, but also clearly your camp hasn't gone well, or clearly you've tried to cut the weight, too much weight. You've tried to cut too much weight, and you haven't managed to do that, and then you're using excuses. With Sharon, there's always excuses. There's always some reason. There's always something, and she won't front you up. And watch this: 2-3 weeks later, she'll go on IFL. She'll give a big story to Coogan, give Coogan the puppy eyes, and say how something has happened, and she's had trouble in her personal life, therefore she can't make weight or whatever. Look, I agree. I mean, look, people sometimes have troubles in their personal life, and it impacts their work life, and I accept that. But the main point is, when you're a professional athlete and your income, your income is based on this, and you're telling everybody on social media in the weeks leading up to the fight, you've had a great camp. You can't wait for people to come here, come to Liverpool, and all your tickets are sold out, and you're going to put on a show and yada, yada, yada. And then you turn up and you can't make weight and you lose the fight. You're conning the fans there, aren't you?
Let me ask you, I don't want to, do you really think she's racist? Can I be honest with you? I know people are going to lay into me for saying this. I'm not sure she's an actual racist.
No, I think she's just ignorant. I think she was probably just ignorant when she was young, and she was saying, look, a lot of people say things on social media later that they regret. If you dug through anybody's history, I think there's a big difference between being racist and ignorance. And people might say racist things. I mean, look, it's not justification to say racist things. No, it doesn't make you a racist. But what I'm saying is, she, in her early life, she said some stuff which are racist, but maybe she's not racist anymore. I don't know her, so I can't judge her. But I don't think she's inherently. I don't think she's inherently these days a racist. She might have educated herself. She's got H as a trainer. And
That's
stuff.
What I was going to say, Riku. She's got H. Now, why would H train her if she was racist? That don't make no sense.
Yeah, but I'd say on the other side, you'd say the same argument by have a friend, insert whatever thing you're being accused
Oh,
of.
I see. Right, yeah.
So you could say
That's my
that.
get out card, Riku. That's my get out card.
Yeah, but I just think she's just a thick woman from Watford. That's my thinking. She's not particularly intelligent. She's a product of her environment. That's what she is.
Let me tell you, I'm a bit concerned about her. I know people are going to lay into me for saying that, but I never like to. I never like to pile in. It can be a little bit dangerous when we pile into people. So I'm certainly keen to lay off Shannon Courtney a bit. I'm sure she'll be all right. She's got thick skin, quite literally. But I'm a bit keen to lay off her because sometimes these things can go wrong. Seems like she's a bit of a target at the minute. And maybe she's brought some of that on herself. But maybe it's time we just, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Yeah, you know what? I
do a Caroline Flack, but
I don't want. Yeah, I don't want to seem like we picking on her boxing fans and picking her, but the way how she conducts her social media, she's probably, she's a world champion. She's got protected tweets. You can't follow her. She actually asks people. She just wants to see the positivity. She can't take any of the negativity. I'm not saying social media should be negative, but also she's the one that promotes her lifestyle being great. She's the one that promotes this idea that she's an inspiration. Are you going to put that photo at the top, which is a box photo?
Listen, it's a damn shame that she's blocked access because she had one photo in her whole career, in her whole life. This is probably Shannon Courtney's. I'm trying to find this photo. Probably Shannon Courtney's biggest achievement, bigger than her winning the WBA world title. But there's one photo of Shannon Courtney, I have to say. She looks pretty serious in this photo. I have to give her credit for that. You keep talking, I'm trying to find that photo. It's a damn shame we don't get access to these pics anymore. We used to get access to all sorts of crap.
You need to follow on Instagram. But yesterday she was having so she hasn't come out, said anything publicly, but yesterday on her Instagram, she was having a date night in Sheesh and Shigwell or whatever, one of these places that the Towie lot go to. But I think the way how she conducted herself in that Ebony Bridges build-up was just not on. She was effectively kicking a woman for doing exactly what she's doing, but being more obvious about it.
Yeah, well, she was pretty much doing the same thing beforehand. And here we go. This right here is Shannon Courtney's greatest achievement, in my opinion, ever. Forget the WBA title, but this photo is an absolute gem. So I want to say big shout out to Shannon Courtney. That is the greatest achievement of her career. Not sure about the Machino belt, but it is what it is. But yeah, Shannon, if you can please unlock that account for your good friend Ultra, that would be
nobody has access to that account anymore. Go on.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't want access to Shannon Courtney's account. Right, Riku. We're gonna do it. Ask Riku, and then we're gonna go. 15 more minutes, Riku. Can you give me that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Right, guys. It's random question time. Ask Riku. I'm gonna ask Riku to be a little bit brief.
Fireside chat.
Yeah, just ask them. In the meantime, while we get these questions in. A gem of a tweet from August the 10th that I forgot to do on this show. Shevin, I hope you're listening because this is the kind of tweet that you love, Shevin. All right. This is Nick Peaty, I believe, who is listen, I mean, to be honest,
Boxing Disciples, which is affiliated to DAZN.
Jesus Christ. I just think there are too many boxing podcasts these days. I think every Tom, Dick and Harry's got a flipping boxing podcast these days. I mean, they're more familiar than a bloody number 10 bus. But anyway.
You know what? There's actually less now than there were before the pandemic because a lot of people stopped doing them during the pandemic. There used to be loads, but now there's only a handful. I only listen to about 2 or 3 of them. So I'm more of a YouTube boxing man. So I obviously subscribe to your channel and the others, and then there's a couple of podcasts I listen to, and that's it.
Well, you need to be subscribing to Fight Disciples because this is a very, very profound statement we're about to read here for the fans. Nick Peaty says, he talks about when you make plans to go to Las Vegas October the 9th for Fury Wilder 3, but then at Matchroom Boxing drop a card in your hometown that takes your breath away. So Nick Peaty, the lead guy at Fight Disciples, right, said that he was struggling to make a choice between going to Las Vegas to watch Fury versus Wilder 3, which turned out to be, by all accounts, one of the greatest fights ever in the history of boxing, He was concerned and he was considering ditching that ticket to Vegas to stay home and watch Liam Beefy Smith and what's his name? Anthony
Fowler.
Fowler.
CBD Fowler, yeah.
Riku, I'll let you take it away. The state of the British media in this country is a joke, Riku. Carry on.
Well, I mean, look, if Beefy Smith's fighting on an all-scouts derby against Fowler, I'd probably just not go to Vegas because who cares about Fury Wilder, heavyweight title.
Yeah, obviously.
Vegas. I mean, Vegas isn't as good fun as Liverpool, anyways, or night out, right? We all know that.
Who wants to be stuck in Vegas with some of the finest hookers known to grace the planet? Yeah.
And also, what are you going to tell your grandkids, right? You missed the all Liverpool derby for no title. I don't think there was a title on the line, so why do that?
That's it, Riku. You tell your grandkids, oh, where were you? Where were you in the MS Bank Arena when Liam Beefy Smith stopped the great Anthony Fowler? To be fair to Fowler, listen, he's taken that loss quite well. Can I just say, Riku, and I get this up because I know you have an opinion on this, right? Paul Smith Jr., I'm sorry, but his behaviour is absolutely disgusting. Do you know that? And I'll tell you what, this guy is an absolute joke.
He's blocked me ages ago on Twitter, so I don't know what he said.
He is an absolute joke. I'm trying to find the pics of it, and I can't find it, but here it is. Look at this. Look, I'm no fan of Anthony Fowler. So when I stick up for Anthony Fowler, you know it's bad, yeah? But this is, Anthony Fowler. I'm just going to quickly scroll this up. This is Anthony Fowler having been knocked down by Liam Smith for the first time in their fight. And that's Paul Smith. And you can all see the video online of Paul Smith shouting and screaming at Anthony Fowler as he's trying to get up. I just think that's disgusting. And I'm surprised that Paul Smith, right, especially as a fighter, should know better than that. That is absolutely disgusting to scream in that man's face as he's trying to get up from a knockdown. Oh, what do you think about that? I think Paul Smith brings it on himself.
He does. And we all remember his fight against DeGale and Groves and even against Andre Ward. So he, if anybody, should know how it feels to get battered in an all-British fight.
Bump of K says, different when it's your brother in there having a fight, Ultra. I appreciate that. Listen, I'm not a professional fighter like Paul Smith. I've never had a fight.
You can support your brother without demeaning the other fighter, right?
Yeah, I just thought, and he was continuously screaming at him as well. And I just thought, look, there's a time and a place for that. Do you know what I mean? It's all about having a little bit of respect in the ring. That's my opinion. And for me, Paul Smith showed Anthony Fowler no respect in that ring. To me, listen, Anthony Fowler got in the ring and fought his brother. He deserved a certain level of respect. I just think Paul Smith totally threw that out. What do you think? Final words on that, Riku?
Agree. I mean, look, they all in on it, right? You build up the fight, and if anybody should know how it happens, and you shake hands afterwards. I don't think there was ever any real malice between Fowler and Beefy Smith.
Yeah, no, you're just trying to fuck in. I mean, and the worst thing was Fowler in the post-fight was talking about how the Smith family are a special family in Liverpool. I mean, fucking hell. I mean, talk about scraping a barrel. Special family in fucking Liverpool. Fuck me. I mean, Jesus Christ. Give me.
I need to say something as somebody said in the comments. Shannon the Bleeder Courtney versus Shannon the Cannon Briggs.
Who said that? Where's that? Who said that?
It said 9-10 after Ask Riku.
Oh my god! So many comments, I can't find that. All right, let's get on to these questions. All right, and I'll find this. All right, right, guys, I've missed all the questions out. So, here we go. It's this cunt here. Yeah, he's a beauty. Yeah, he's a fucking beauty, isn't he? All right, here we go. Right, James Lord. Right, is it fair that Savannah Marshall gets tarnished with the same brush as Shannon and Ebony Bridges? Savannah is a serious boxer. Let me just quickly button on that. Savannah may be a serious boxer, but she can't take pictures on her Instagram like what Shannon Courtney does. And I tell you one thing, if she mentions Clarissa Shields one more time, I think I'm going to scream. I'm rooting for her to get brutally knocked out. I don't care what anybody says. So I'm not. It takes a lot for me. It takes a lot. There you go. This is one thing that Savannah Marshall ain't. Yeah. Now it takes a lot from me. Yeah. To feel sorry for Clarissa Shields, but the way that Savannah Marshall just has to attach Clarissa Shields to every single interview, I just think it's embarrassing for me. Sorry, Riku. Please give us your thoughts on that question and Savannah Marshall.
I don't think anybody tarnishes her with the same brush. I think everybody should be smart enough to realize that female boxers that promote themselves through their looks versus the ones that don't go down that route is quite different. And look, if female boxers want to promote themselves through their looks, that's they can do it. That's fine. I mean, UFC fighters have done that. Ronda Rousey did that to an extent. So I'm not a UFC fan, but that's how much I know about UFC. But Ebony Bridges does it in a very different way to Shannon Courtney. Shannon Courtney pretends not to do it. Savannah Marshall is an Olympian, ex-GB fighter, world amateur champion, the only woman to ever beat Clarissa Shields, amateur pro. So I don't think anybody's tarnishing them with the same brush.
Fair question. Fair question. Yeah, fair question. Let's move on. DAZN Dave says, can AJ, we're back to AJ again. Can AJ do anything to clear his head after being hit? Is that possible, or is that something you just can or cannot do?
I mean, look, I'll give you my view. Being hit a few times, so I think some people are less fuzzy after they get hit. But part of it's as well how you take the shot. Like Fury is very good at riding shots, whereas Wilder, for example, when he gets hit, he doesn't ride shots as well. Part of it is part of it's art and part of it's science, and the art comes in where you actually make sure that you buy yourself enough time and you know what to do when you get put down in the ring. Whereas, somebody like Fury is very good at that, whereas AJ seems to be more scrambling at that point, a bit like Wilder is, tenses up, tries to do something, and that doesn't seem to work, right?
All right, let's. Sunny Singh says he's during the show. I've got some guys I need to fit in the slots. Is Wilder finished? And if he isn't, who should he face in his first fight back? Kawanaki.
I think actually Helenius will be a perfect fight back. I mean, Helenius is coming off 2 wins against Kawanaki, the only Finnish boxer at the moment that anybody knows. So, shout out to Helenius. I think Helenius is tailor made for him. But I don't think he's finished. I think we're too quick to write off fighters these days. If Wilder wants to continue fighting, he should do that. Obviously, he took a hell of a beating in the last 2 fights. He's taken a hell of a beating, but he's fighting against the top guy in boxing in his weight division. So I wouldn't say he's finished at all. But I think Helenius will be a good one. 2 PBC fighters. Helenius coming off 2 big wins. I think that would help his stature.
Some guys put the Ask Riku hashtag on there. That'd be great, because then I can actually find them. But I'm finding one here. I think we've gone through this, but just clarify. Mm-hmm. Do you think the Wilder versus Fury fight the Fury versus Dillian Whyte fight will actually happen?
No, I don't see why Fury needs to do it.
Do you think Fury's going to vacate, or do you think it'll be franchise? What do you think will happen?
He'll probably get franchise. I mean, that makes the most sense for Fury, right?
I hope he does, because that was right up the fanboys, and I can do like fucking 10 episodes on it. You can imagine. I can imagine a couple channels now not naming names. That would be furious if that happened. But yeah, no, carry on, Mickey.
Yeah, and you know what? People would say, Fury's ducking White. Fury's ducking White, and then Eddie would say, Fury didn't want to face White. That left hook, Fury wouldn't be prepared for that.
Yeah, that magical left hook. Yeah. James Lord says, do you ever place bets on Matchroom shows? They are pretty easy fights to predict. I'm not a betting man, but and I don't even really understand odds because I don't bet. But I've seen some of the odds for these Matchroom fights are some of the funniest you ever see. Some of the main events, like the odds of the house fighter losing, are like 300 to 1 or something absolutely ridiculous, Riku.
So I do place odd bets sometimes. So what I do, well, there's a few ways. If you parlay the bets, and sometimes you parlay the bets, so you put them all together. There's been occasions when you put all the home fighters, 6 or 7 on the card, and if you put 10 quid, you get 11 quid back. That's how bad the odds are sometimes. so you have to place bets on somebody stopping somebody, sort of method of victory, or then maybe somebody stopping somebody in the first 6 rounds or second half of the fight. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But then again, when you bet on Kid Galahad against Josh Warrington and you do a bit of live betting during the show because you're scoring the fight, you kind of forget that actually the scorecards are rigged.
Ultra, Terry Harper's opponent is Peng No Lies. She is.
That's true.
We have seen Alicia Bangle. Listen, can I just say something? I want to make this show clear. I'm no simp, so I don't simp over these females. I don't check these females' profiles going, wow, these females are fine. I don't do any of that shit. But Alicia Baumgartner is a good-looking woman. There's no question. You can't say she's a bad-looking woman. And in my opinion, like I said, Terry Harper's got the best physique in women's boxing, in my opinion, by a country mile. But that's an episode for another day. I'm going to go through this. Dave says, if Canelo beats Plant, could we see Canelo versus Triple G next year? 3 for all the belts.
I don't think Canelo wants that fight. And I don't think it's that he's afraid of Triple G. I just think the bad blood means that he has no reason to fight against Triple G again. Because he feels Triple G's comments in the build-up to a second fight were so bad. That's why he doesn't want to give Triple G the option to fight him. And Triple G, since he signed with Matchroom, has faded to obscurity, hasn't he?
Oh, well, but that can't be right, Riku. I thought Eddie Hearn makes everybody a superstar. Just look at Demetrius Andrade, who will be fighting Luke Keeler. Where's that? Dunkin' Donuts Arena again. Great.
Didn't he say in an interview this week, I think he was talking about Teofimo Lopez, and he said, oh, he was saying Teofimo Lopez's dad that give us an opportunity, we'll put on a show like you've never seen one before.
Yeah, they will. That's what Matchroom do. That's what Matchroom are great at doing, yeah, Riku. Matchroom are great at putting on shows. If you want a show that's got lots of fireworks, lots of talk about ticket sales and drones flying all over the place, Matchroom are absolutely brilliant for that. Unfortunately for Matchroom, and let me just show you to a tweet that I was supposed to show today, actually, and I completely forgot. The problem with Matchroom is they're not very good at making fights. Now, I'm just having a look here at my own Twitter page. Oh, plug. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Ultras Podcast, okay? And you have a look at this here, right? So we worked this out today, right? We're talking about contracts because the talk about Wilder and flipping AJ still going on and everybody started talking about contracts. And I said, look about these fights. Brook versus Khan, both in the same stable, never happened. David Avanesian, Riku, I wanted to give us a quick few thoughts on Avanesian and Conor Benn. Avanesian fucking was in that stable with Conor Benn. He was signed with Matchroom for at least one or two fights. They couldn't make the fight with Benn. Luis Ortiz was signed by Matchroom, and somehow they forgot to put him in the ring with Dillian Whyte or Anthony Joshua, but somehow found the time to stick him in the ring with Dave Allen. Lee Selby and Josh Warrington were both in the same stable, and that's another fight that Eddie Hearn couldn't make happen. Frank Warren beat him to it and did it in his stadium. So those of you guys who love stadiums, there you go. Frank Warren did that in Ellen Road, 20,000 turn up to go and watch that. Dillian Whyte versus Anthony Joshua too, both in the same stable. Fight can't be made. Andrade versus either one of Canelo and GGG. These guys have been in the same stable now, the same fucking promotion, the same network for the last 3-4 whatever years, and they still can't make these fights. Any just general thoughts on that, Riku?
Well, you can add Billy Joe Saunders against Callum Smith to that.
Yes.
You can add so many of those fights.
So many, and just what do you think? That's a real problem, like. Because I think this is what I'm trying to get at. I think people focus on ticket sales, shows, stadiums. What fights are actually happening in these shows and stadiums? I think, like I said, Matchroom, like I said, they've done a lot of good, right? They've done a lot of good. But having said that, they do have a track record, even when they've got guys in the same promotion, just not being able to get fights over the line. Carry on, Riku.
No, I think what they tend to do is they match their fighters easy, then they send them abroad on another promotion to lose, or bring a fighter from another promotion over to lose, and that's their game plan. So just maximize sort of the sales. The next Conor Benn won't be defend whenever he gets his big fight, and by big fight I mean one way can make a lot of money and can potentially make a lot of money for Matchroom. It's not going to be probably on a Matchroom show in the UK, but like Kell Brook went over to the US to fight against Sean Porter.
Well,
that's what they always do. They would never do, they would never do Kell Brook against Khan, for example, on their own show until it's too late.
Well, they tried, didn't they? And Eddie Hearn basically came out and said that, and that was incredible, isn't it? By the way, after almost a decade of Eddie Hearn laying into Amir Khan and accusing Amir Khan of being a ducker. Those of you who remember one of my famous intros to my show will see Eddie the Contradiction Hearn there slagging off Amir Khan in one screen and then licking his bum hole the next screen. Don't worry, hopefully we're bringing those intros back, yeah? After 10 years of basically blaming Amir Khan and calling on Amir Khan a coward, Eddie Hearn's now basically come out and said the reason why the fight ain't going to happen on DAZN is because of Kell Brook and because Kell Brook doesn't really want it. Have you got any thoughts on that? That fight apparently is happening.
I'm not sure is that going to happen, but even if it does, it's way too late. That's going to be a DAZN pay-per-view for everybody to spend 29 quid on.
Well, I've heard it's Sky. I heard it. I heard.
Oh yes, actually, I've heard the same thing. Sky.
I've heard the same thing. It won't be on DAZN. Sorry, Riku.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. It's on Sky if it's going to be, but in any case, it was the same with the Frampton against Quigg fight, wasn't it? Where they were holding that £1 million check. Do you remember that?
Hey, do you remember that shit? Yeah. Sorry, do you remember, let me get that up. Do you remember when they made Scott Quigg hold up £1 million check for somebody else? I'm not being funny. Isn't that one of the most embarrassing things you've ever seen in boxing? Hey, hold on a minute. And this, don't forget, Scott Quigg's a man who was filmed ring walking from his front door. Yeah, he was filmed from his front door to the fucking. As if that wasn't embarrassing. Let me try and get this up anyway. Carry on, Riku. Here it is. Here it is. Who was advising Scott Quigg when he done this? Hold on. Wow. Does anything say Poundland more than this? This is Scott Quigg holding up a £1.5 million check for Carl Frampton. Can you believe that? Scott Quigg holding up a check that's destined for another boxer, pointing at that. And you know Scott Quigg was getting about half of that max.
Yeah.
Carry on, Riku.
No, that's it. That walking from his front door, that was hilarious. Because the production values were so low in that video.
MA content postcode lotto. Running from his front door. What the fuck? You know what? I will show the video, but not now because I don't want to get done for copyright. I'm on thin ice as it is, yeah. But eventually I will start testing the waters. But what were we talking about before that? Yeah, Avanesian signing for Frank. Do you think Frank can? I'm not sure Frank can do anything with him because he's not a big job. Listen, we all know. Hey, Riku, let's just take it back a bit. Those Sky numbers. So there was an email sent around.
Yes.
That 400,000 people tuned in to watch Avanesian on Sky a few weeks ago. That was then picked up by Umar Ahmed, who is a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, from the very, very reputable site IFL TV, and retweeted as pure fact. Now, am I thinking, were those numbers actually the case, or was it probably the finest troll in boxing, Del G, once again showing that Umar Ahmed is not fit to be a journalist and shouldn't be anywhere near any kind of media or any. In fact, Umar Ahmed, they should be, in my opinion, if that's true, if Umar Ahmed really was conned by a false story by Derek G, then microphones across the country and speakers should be seeking restraining orders against Umar Ahmed. Carry on, Rico.
I'm not sure whether the numbers are true or not, but back to David Avanesian. The most interesting thing I have with that is David Avanesian, I thought, was a boxer fighter, Sky guy, and he's signed with Frank, which is great for Frank. But also Ritson, who was meant to fight this weekend against Hank Lundy, has now ended up on this new promotional company, which Sam Jones has joined.
Probellum?
Yes, Probellum, that's the one. So what is it with these boxer fighters? Like, are they actually signed for Sky? Are they signed for Wasserman? What's the deal? There's no clarity on the link, is there? Wasserman fighters, it's bizarre.
It's bizarre, isn't it? Again, we all thought Avanesian was tied in to deal with them. Frank just went in and took him. I'm quite upset that Frank didn't get Lewis Ritson, but I don't know what's going on with Probellum. What is it? I mean, are Probellum different to Sky, or you just signed with Probellum to advise?
It's a new promotional company.
So it's not like
US-based promotional company that doesn't have a UK TV rights at the moment. So they signed. Obviously, Sam Jones has joined there, and he's signed there as a promoter rather than as a manager. So I don't know what the deal is. So anybody care to enlighten us in the comments, please feel free to do so.
It's bizarre, isn't it? I mean, Lewis Ritson also signed for Probellum. Let me tell you, I think Frank could do something with Lewis Ritson, to be honest. And I'm not just saying that now. I've actually been saying that on and off sporadically for the last year or two. I think Lewis Ritson, I think certain fighters are better with Eddie Hearn. I think Tony Bellew had a much better career with Eddie Hearn than he did with Frank. I think Derek Chisora had a better career with Eddie Hearn than he did with Frank. I think Frank put him in the harder fights. Under Frank, he fought Vitali Klitschko and David Hay. Okay. Under Eddie, he's fighting Joseph Parker and freaking Senad Gashi. Okay. But nevertheless, I think Eddie Hearn gave Derek Chisora the best of his career. But I think Lewis Ritson is somebody that I think needs to allow He's had his skull bashed in so many times. He's been stopped twice. He's someone now that needs a bit of TLC. He's someone that needs somebody that knows boxing around him, and he needs someone now to manage him carefully because he can still draw in the Northeast, but he needs to be managed carefully. He needs the right fights at the right time. What do you think about that?
No, I agree. I mean, look, he lost his last fight. He probably lost to Vasquez the fight before, so I think he needs a few nice fights to come back and build up his confidence. The other thing is his weight, right? I'm not sure what his best weight is. He might be too small for 140, or that might be a problem for him.
Just trying to go through. Guys, you got any other questions for Dave? Dave will ask questions until the cows come home. Let me just ask this one from Joe Wall. Should Fury offer Joshua the chance to fight for the WBC?
No. I mean, Joshua's contracted to fight against Usyk, or so we're led to believe. Let them fight it out, and Fury can fight the winner.
But I think he means if Fury gets if AJ gets beaten by Usyk. Let's just say that.
Oh,
so if
should
AJ
he,
gets
should
beaten
he
by
offer it?
Usyk, should he eventually give him the voluntary? If he can, if so.
Yeah,
If
I think if the terms are right, are right for Fury, yeah. I mean, Fury's got, Fury has his leg over Joshua at this point. He could give him whatever, a fraction of what he would have given him before,
what do you
that
think
would still be a big fight.
Do you remember when Barry Hearn was on Radio Live, Radio 5 Live, or Radio 5 Live with Frank Warren?
Time. Yeah, I remember that.
And
Barry got embarrassed. Yeah,
Barry got embarrassed, and we never saw Barry Hearn again after that. Really, I think that was it. I think that was the Barry Hearn's moment where they just decided to shove him in the cupboard and lock the key permanently. Because
that wasn't the moment. The moment was the press conference about slave owners. That was the moment.
Barry Hearn at his finest there. Right. So, I mean, 50-50. Barry Hearn, who a lot of people believe, probably not anymore, but certainly up to a few years ago, a lot of people, including Frank Warren, believed that Barry Hearn was the primary decision maker at Matchroom. And that Eddie was a big decision maker, but Barry was the one who had the final word on it. And that what we all know is true. Frank Smith is a glorified T-boy with a bow tie. We all know that, right? Mm-hmm. But Barry apparently was still the big decision maker. Now, Barry, up to a couple of years ago, said, I'm not giving Tyson Fury a 50-50 split. And he said that live on air, to Frank Warren. He said it's not going to be a 50-50 split. How times have changed. I know we don't like to go on for splits in this channel, but what do you think the splits will be? Do you think Fury could say, if Joshua gets beaten by Usyk, 70-30. 70-30. Do you think it could be something like that?
Could be 75-25 because Joshua brings nothing to the table, and that's more than a standard voluntary defense. So,
well, what about Joshua's resume? How much is that worth on the split?
That's 90% worth.
But Joshua's fought all these top 10 fighters. All right, let's go through some more of this stuff. There are actually some out there. I'm just trying to go. Riku, if you can see any, just call them out, and I'll think, guys. We've got a couple more minutes left. A hashtag Ask Riku. There is one here. Let me ask you this one from Dave. Can Callum Smith wipe up at light heavy? Jesus Christ. I think he beats Bivol and Joe Smith. The Bertabayev is a hard fight, but he's getting on.
I mean, he might beat Bivol. I think Bivol's quite small at the weight, so I think that's an evenly matched fight. Joe Smith punches harder than people think, so let's see how Callum Smith deals with that 175. But yeah, I think he'll do well at that weight division. I don't think he can clean up, but yeah.
Here comes one of the biggest shit starters in all of boxing. Abdul's here. He says, is Conor Benn overrated or is it just me? He acts like a lion calling out Khan, but he's a kitten when calling out Javan, Boots, Ennis, or Ortiz. I think, can I just say, be honest with you? I think, Conor Benn himself will fight any man. I don't think Conor Benn's ducking anybody. I think Conor Benn, you put the contract in him to fight Avanesian, he'll fight anybody. But I think his handlers don't want him to do that. And let me just ask you a question. Did they teach any defense in that Tony Sims gym? Because all of these fighters that are coming out of Tony Sims gym, they seem to be swinging for the heels and leaving their chins out to dry. I mean, Cheeseman is going to be a tragic story in the making, no doubt. And I ain't talking about his gambling habits either. Cheeseman's going to be waking up in the morning with a very, very serious headache anytime soon if he doesn't learn to start bringing his gloves up. So there you go, Rico. Ask about that.
Cheeseman slurs his speech already, which is
upsetting. He's 27.
That's why I mean, if the British Boxing Board of Control had any red flags for fighters, Ted Cheeseman should definitely have one. He needs a brain scan and quick. Is Conor Benn overrated? Depends who's rating him. If you believe the Matchroom hype and you believe the hype machine coming out of DAZN and Eddie, then yeah, he is. But I think all real boxing fans know that he's still relatively raw. And compared to Boots Ennis or Ortiz, Virgil Ortiz against Ben, that wouldn't last more than 4 rounds. Boots would beat him comprehensively over 12 rounds, winning every single round.
Got another one here, and I'm just going to go back to it. Troy Williamson and Eku Esserman have taken the necessary steps so far, while Josh Kelly and Fowler have jumped the levels and got smashed to pieces. Which career path do you prefer? Can I just say, Frank, if you're listening, I know obviously I'm on the Frank Warren payroll. Mm-hmm. I would tell you what, Ritson and Kelly, the 2 fighters I would sign in a heartbeat. I really believe in Kelly. I think Kelly's got the beating at Ben. People can say what they want. I've always believed that, and I'm going to stand by that. What do you think about the question there, Riku?
Well, Kelly and Fowler were both in Team GB. So I think it's right that they put up in tough matches early in their career because you don't necessarily have to build them as quickly. And Fowler turned over quite late. Wasn't he meant to be the next Carl Froch? That's what we were told.
Jesus Christ.
It's different with Echo Esserman. I think he boxed England Boxing or Team GB a bit, but it wasn't. Team GB. Team GB. But he went the ticket selling route, as did Williamson. So it's just a bit different, and you end up fighting harder that way. But Fowler never had time on his side. And also, once you're on that Matchroom thing, you signed as an ex-Team GB guy, people want to see you moving quickly and they expect big things from you.
There was actually something in here that I wanted to ask you.
And Kelly's not finished. Kelly's not finished yet.
I tell you, I really think that they've... I really think there's something in Kelly. I really do believe he's got to be in a Conor Ben all day. And I'm telling you, and I'll say it now, Josh Kelly at 100. If you took the Josh Kelly that fought David Avanesian and put him against the Conor Ben who fought Adrian Granados, I think Josh Kelly wins that on points. Conor Ben is not David Avanesian. He's not battle tested like David Avanesian. He hasn't gone away from home in the absolute cauldron of Bilbao, yeah? Against a puncher, yeah, where nobody wants to talk about going into the lion's den. Tyson Fury, most of the crowd were on his side against Wilder. Flipping those, so you've seen those fights in Bilbao
against Leharaja,
where you fight Laraja. I mean, it is serious, isn't it? Do you remember when Skeet and who was the other guy when Skeet went over there? I mean, that is
there was another British guy, wasn't there?
Yeah,
there was another one.
Was it Frankie Gavin who went over there as well?
Yeah, Frankie Gavin. Yeah, he got destroyed in 2 rounds. Or
That's
something.
it. I mean, people don't understand. Like, it's serious stuff when you go over there. And he went over there and did it twice. So Conor Ben ain't no Avanesian, man. So I think Josh Kelly's got a legit chance.
I just don't think Josh Kelly, the Adam Boots style, doesn't actually suit Josh Kelly at all. I think that's the problem. I'm not one forever advocating the fighters need to change trainers, but I just think that Josh Kelly has more to his arsenal than that Adam Boots style. And I think that was his undoing a bit in that fight. The game plan wasn't right and the style just didn't work. And also, his gas tank was just going after 3-4 rounds against Avanesian.
You're talking about Anthony Joshua's new coach there, Alan Booth. Let me ask you about this quickly. This is my question to you. Right, 5 minutes and we're out of here. Dominic Ingle for Anthony Joshua. People don't like that. I think it's a genius idea. Nobody likes that idea from me. Everybody I tell thinks I'm nuts. I think Dominic. Don't forget, Dominic Ingle had Tyson Fury for a short period.
He did.
Now, Tyson Fury was overweight, and just coming back when Dom had him in that dreadful fight against Sefer Fury. But I honestly believe, there's very few coaches in this world, very few high-profile coaches in this country who know more about angles and how to deal with southpaws than Ingle. That Ingle gym, I'm telling you, Anthony Joshua wants to know that Anthony Joshua wasn't even doing the flipping basics, of trying to get his lead foot on the outside and also he couldn't even get the basics done against Usyk in that fight. For me, there's no better gym to go to than the Ingle gym because they know how to deal with southpaws. Southpaws is nothing to the Ingle gym. Go in there, as Dominic Ingle says, we've got southpaws 10 a penny in here. You're not special in here. You come in here, everybody's seen left-handers. Everybody has to deal with left-handers. You've got no advantage when you come to that gym. Thoughts on that?
I mean, look, Ingle gym has a great track record against southpaws, but my thinking is you don't necessarily... It's very hard to change your coach for a specific fight just to solve somebody like Usyk because Joshua would have to learn a new style. adapt to a new coaching regime. Dom Ingle isn't leaving that gym to train Anthony Joshua, so Anthony Joshua would have to move up there, train up there.
Yeah, but isn't the ice in Sheffield anyway? What's the difference? Both in Sheffield.
Well, he's in Sheffield. He's in Finchley. He's at so he changes gyms all the time. I think he should have his own gym. If I was being honest, just a fighter of his status should have the AJ boxing gym or whatever, right?
Gee, what about this one? Two people have said this. Abdul's saying this, and Tom Clark's saying this. Peter Fury for Anthony Joshua. But I don't know where people get Abdullah, where are you getting this from? Peter Fury based off what? Some IFL TV videos? I don't understand where people are getting these ideas from. And I'm not saying they're wrong or right, but where are you getting that? Go on, Riku, give your thoughts.
Look, I'm never one to advocate who fighters should train with specifically. I'm not at the training camp. I don't know whether a fighter listens to the game plan or not. I don't know whether a fighter's fit or not. I don't think we can always have this mindset that if a fighter loses, they need to change coach. Only Joshua and his team knows what went wrong in that fight. So I think whatever Joshua does, he needs to be comfortable with his own decision at the end of the day, because he's going to be the one that's blamed. If he changes his coach and loses again, then everybody will go back and say, why didn't he change? Why didn't he stay with Rob McCracken?
Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
This joke's getting tired, Dave. This Billy Nelson. I'm still waiting for him to come back on Twitter, but he won't come back. He won't come back. Have you seen it? I haven't seen him.
No, he hasn't been on Twitter for a while, has he? I mean, Billy Nelson's done wonders with Bacoli, so.
Where is he training now? He's training that fucking the Thor, isn't he? He's training that Johnson. He's up in Iceland, isn't he? Training giants.
Remember when Bacoli put out that video, which was unsavory to say the least.
Oh, Jesus. We can't talk about that on here.
No, we aren't talking about that specifically. Billy Nelson went all quiet.
I've never seen Billy, and I've been harassing. I was harassing Enzo Macronelli the other week, asking if he knows where he is. Where is he? Billy, if you're listening, let's get it on. Come on this show.
Maybe he's been banned.
Explain yourself. Billy, if you listen to the show, forget all them interviews with your mate Andrew McCart, who I actually like. I think Andrew McCart's one of the better guys on IFL TV.
I mean, it doesn't take a lot to be one of the better guys, but he's probably he's good.
McCart can actually fight as well. I'm pretty sure I'm not sure he's had fights, but I think he might have had one or two white collar.
I've seen him in the ring with Tyson Fury, isn't it?
Yeah. McCart will throw a punch or headbutt you. So I've got respect for McCart. He's not just an interview dude. He'll throw some shots. If you stop Billy, stop hiding. Stop doing them in little softball interviews with your little mate Andy McCart on IFL TV. Come on this show, everybody knows you're the king, and let's get this on, Let's talk about Martin Bacoli's future, and let's talk about I think Billy comes on this show. Billy Nelson was right. Me and Billy Nelson used to argue about Daniel Dubois versus Martin Bacoli, and I always said to Billy Nelson that Martin Bacoli would iron out, that Dubois would iron out Bacoli, And we had a bit of an argument over that, but I think looking back on it, Billy Nelson probably was right. I think Bacoli may have actually had his number. Let me just go through here. Someone asked a question.
I would say something positive about Billy Nelson, which is great credit to him for actually building up his fighter. A guy that doesn't speak great English, or he's quite softly spoken. He's come from another country, and Billy Nelson's the one that has got him onto everybody's radar. So, that's what trainer managers should be doing.
Fair play to Billy Nelson. AJ should accept some help from Lennox. This is a very, very popular view. This is something that's being pushed around by a friend of the show. Not really a friend of the show. I don't think I'm on his list of favorite people at the minute. But this is something that's been pushed around by Spencer Fearon at the minute. That Anthony Joshua should accept some help from Lennox Lewis. Before I get your answer on that, Riku, Lennox Lewis is something very, very interested on Twitter. He was asked about why he didn't work out with David Price. And Lennox basically said
saw that.
You saw that, yeah. So for the viewers, he basically said that David Price wasn't really willing to commit. He basically said that when you train with him, you have to come to a new country, new culture. Basically, I think he said you have to switch off your phone. You don't see your family. It basically, it almost sounded like the sort of a Marvin.
He said he's old school, right? He's old school, and it's not
jail.
Everyone. Yeah,
it's old school. Like training camp is a jail. Do you know what I mean? You're almost doing jail time when you're doing training camp, and you have to make the sacrifices necessary. And he said that David Price didn't want to do that. Get your thoughts on that, Riku, and just obviously as well, I found it very, very interesting. I know Fury and Lennox may have had a few things in the past. I think John Fury hinted that he wasn't happy with some of the things that Lennox Lewis said about Fury in the past. But if you look at it there, Fury out in America, biggest night of his career. Lennox Lewis backstage watching him, came to him, spoke to him. There seems to be a lot of respect there. And there seems to be a lot of respect between Fury and Lewis. Ironically, again, Lewis was probably one of our biggest ever exports to the States. Still to this day, one of the most respected champions. Walks up and down anywhere. Everybody knows Lennox Lewis. The man's a legend. Maybe someone that's now passing down to Fury. Just found that quite interesting there. Fury's attitude towards Lennox Lewis, almost sort of, maybe I'm overdoing it, but almost sort of a passing of the torch moment backstage there with Lennox coming over there and, basically saying, you are now the guy in your era. I don't think that. I think he has to be Usyk to prove that. But Lennox Lewis, they're basically coming and saying, you're the guy of your era. And just think about Anthony Joshua, how Anthony Joshua treated Lennox Lewis. Lennox is a clown. I'm going to do it my way. I don't need to listen to Lennox Lewis. Very, very interesting.
I mean, look, I think it's great to see, Britain's best ever heavyweight in Lennox Lewis speaking to potentially Britain's next best ever heavyweight in Tyson Fury. So I think that's positive, and I think that's what the sport really needs. In terms of the training methods, I've seen a few people say that's how I prefer things to be done. Well, it's hard to say, but things work for some fighters. They don't work for others.
Other fighters, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, AJ has is he a son or daughter? I don't remember. But maybe he feels uncomfortable doing it that way, and maybe whatever he's doing works for him to an extent. So I do think you have to do whatever works for you. But what I find interesting is if Lennox is such a good trainer and so highly sought after, why hasn't any other heavyweight ever trained with him?
Does he want to be a trainer, Lennox? Does he actually want to be a trainer?
He wants to be an advisor, doesn't he? That's
I don't think he even wants to do. Yeah,
but what trainer in their right mind would want an advisor that's a former heavyweight in their fighter's ear? I mean, it's hard enough keeping the people in the camp around away from your fighter's ear. Do you want a former heavyweight champion there telling your fighter what to do when you're telling them to do something different? I think
hold on a minute. Why is he getting Lennox Lewis? I mean, Barry Hearn said that Herbie Hyde was the second coming of Muhammad Ali. And
that's true. That's true.
So why doesn't Barry Hearn get him in touch with Herbie Hyde, and Herbie Hyde can show him how to freaking jab properly and be a big man?
Yeah. Herbie Hyde, that famous interview, which I'm sure people can find, where Barry Hearn says Herbie Hyde is the second coming of Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful. Nearless says Joshua will end up back with Sims so Hearn can keep a closer eye on him. He's definitely losing the rematch. I've heard some of AJ's fans say AJ was better with Tony Sims. In Tony Sims, what I put that down to is that Anthony Joshua fought lesser opposition.
Exactly.
Than he was with Tony Sims.
People
say they need to go back to the old AJ. He was devastating against fucking Dennis Baktov in the O2 Arena. The bottom line of it is,
Gavin.
Exactly. Bottom line of it is, right, Anthony Joshua has had close to 50-50 fights in his whole career. That's the bottom line. If you look at Anthony Joshua's resume, I don't give a fuck about top 10s, fucking Parkers and fucking all these guys. Bottom line of it is, Anthony Joshua's been the overwhelming favourite in pretty much every single fight he's ever been in his career. The only two fights he's ever been into where he was not the clear runaway favourite to win was Klitschko, and he hit the floor, and he should have got beat, in my opinion. But he hit the floor, and Usyk, and he was 30 seconds from going out. And that's the bottom line of it. Riku, your thoughts on that?
No, I think that's accurate. You've summed it up, and I think with Anthony Joshua, whatever happens in his career, the next stage for him is to try and win those fights, which are seen as 50-50s.
Right.
So he's lost. I mean, look, he beat Klitschko, which was seen as a 50-50, but that was an old Klitschko, and we didn't know what was left in the tank for Joshua. I think Joshua needs to surprise us. Have that fight where we think he's going to lose, and then surprise us. Right,
Riku, we're done. You're fine. Let's have a look at this card for Saturday, the 16th of October. It's another extravaganza of boxing. Like I said, British boxing is booming in the UK. We've got Savannah Marshall versus Lolito Musea. What the hell is that? You've got Chris Eubank versus Wank Awijan. So not only is Chris Eubank's opponent Wank, but he's even called Wank. Somehow that's made its way onto primetime television on a Saturday night. And then we finish up with Hughie Fury, the great Hughie Fury when he lets his right hand go, versus Christian Hammer, who his best fight was probably about 6-7 years ago when he stopped David Price. Any thoughts on that card, Riku? Will you be watching this one live, or will you be setting the DVR to watch Eubank versus Wank?
Hashtag next gen, Chris Eubank, next gen at the age of 32. I wish I was his age. I wish I was his age, but I wouldn't call myself next gen even at my age. So
that's a good one. Next gen. He's been next gen for 15 years.
Have you seen the t-shirts he's got and the hoodies and the clothing line? Next gen.
No.
Let me send you a link and you can put it. You can put it up on the screen. It's his clothing brand.
Oh dear.
Let me send you the link here in the private chat.
Next minute they'll be calling Sarah J a teen. Anyway, right, let's carry on.
Yeah, I think the card is what the card is, but this is the state of British boxing.
It's not looking good, is it, Riku? I'll be honest with you, it's not looking good. All right. Any final words, Riku?
Thank you, everybody,
let me get your link up.
Pardon?
Let me get your link up. So I just got your link. Carry on. Yeah, but carry on with your final thoughts.
Thanks for everybody for supporting the channel. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. And look, it's a big time commitment for Ultra to run these in his free time. So make sure you subscribe. And anybody looking to buy the next gen collection, at the moment they sold out, so you can sign up to get an email alert and you can buy
wait a minute. Where can I actually see what I'm buying, Riku? Like, I don't understand.
I just send you another link. I send you another link where you can see some of the clothing, hoodies, other stuff. They used to have it all there.
Oh, let me have a look. Hopefully it's better than Kell Brooks. I don't know if you remember Kell Brooks' clothing line.
Yeah, I do remember.
Oh, right. Let's have a look. So wait, where is this then? Do I just keep scrolling down, or where do I go from here?
There used to be the actual clothing. You could see all the different clothing. It used to be hoodies and tracksuits and things like that.
Okay. Yeah. You want to look like this?
Not at my age. Not at my age. I'm a bit too old for that.
All right. Carry on, Riku. Final thoughts. Sorry, man. Sorry if I spoiled you a curveball there. Carry on. Sorry, man.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you comment, share the video, support the channel, and don't be selfish. This is excellent content. So yeah, make sure you get more people involved in this channel. Thank you very much, Riku. Okay, all right, I'm off to do a little bit of work and get some sleep. Maybe if the channel's still around, we will see everybody on Saturday night. I won't be planning to cover the fights live because I'll be probably washing my ball hairs, but we might have England come in to do the post-fight of that. May get Abdul and Darryl on a Sunday, and then maybe get Riku back on next week. We'll have to wait and see. Let's do that. Send my best to Ingram Jones. I've met him. Lovely guy. So, good guy. All right, Riku. Right. Cheers. Right. Speak to you soon. Take care. No worries, brother. Thank you, everyone. Everybody, see you later.